and welcome back to Wednesday's edition of Georgie's Gorgeous Gifts. So today we have two sets of coasters for you. This is just a quick rundown of video number 30. And because I've used a few of these 3D printed templates, there is a playlist at the end, and that's using various different 3D templates from Pour Away Fluid Arts. So I have sped up this version for you because we're going to be creating a brand new set that I've had for quite some time now. So let's just jump straight into it. So you can see here that it comes with these 4 acrylic plates and 4 templates. And the idea is that you pop these templates onto these acrylic bases. For this I'm using epoxy resin, and I do allow this to fully cure before I go on to the next stage. Now this probably wasn't the best way to pop the resin onto these acrylic bases. I have made a few sets since. I did just dip them into epoxy and then pop them onto the base itself, rather than coating the entire base. I am curing each layer in between because I didn't want it to run. Now the acrylic base is going to be the front. I then go in with some clear resin in the gaps because I want to do this 2 separate colours. So you can see here I have filled the clear resin right the way up to the top of the 3D template, because for the next stage that needs to be perfectly level. So we're trying to prevent any air bubbles that might occur. I then go in with some black pigment paste and then go into all the gaps that are left. Like I said, leaving each layer to cure as I'm doing it. Now we have a completely flat base. So for the clear areas that were showing behind the black, I wanted to pop some dichroish film. So I used my heat gun to flatten them out and to crinkle them up, pop them onto the flat base. I did in fact secure them with UV resin around the edges first, just to make sure that the resin wouldn't run underneath the film. And these are the finished coasters. They are absolutely stunning in my opinion. And they sell really well at craft fairs and markets. So I did the 3 in the same dichroish film, but I decided to go a little bit different with this one just to see the different effects and use 2 different colours. Unfortunately, I didn't like this one and it did spoil the set a little bit. But as my first attempt, I thought they come out really nice. So all that's left for these ones is to pull off the front protective sheeting, and there we have it. This is the front of the coaster. Now I do recommend you wait until after you've fully completed the coasters before removing the front protective film, because that keeps the shine on the acrylic. So when I spotted she had these new designs, I had to get them. And these are little coffee cup coasters. Now because these coasters were sort of giving me nighttime planet vibes, because we've got some moons and stars and on some of them. But I'm doing this one a little bit different. With the first lot, I used epoxy resin. For this, I've just poured some of the UV resin from Resiners onto a base, and I'm just dipping the 3D stencil into the UV resin and then popping it onto the acrylic base. Like I said before, the other ones took me 3 days to do because it took a day for the epoxy to cure for the 3D stencil, then it took another day for the clear, and then another day for the black, and then another day for the black layer on top of that. So I wanted this one to be a little quicker. So I just repeated the process with all 4 of them. But after popping them underneath my UV lamp, these are now completely secured to the acrylic bases, which means that the resin that we're going to pop into the gaps is not going to seep underneath. So because a lot of my decor is all greys and whites, I wanted this to match. So I've gone for black and white pigment paste and some silver chunky glitter and some black chunky glitter, both of which are from Resin Detra Supplies. I'm also using some metallic silver alcohol inks. So I've separated my resin after it's been through my mixer and my degasser, and just pop in the various colours into it. So I have got the same amount in each one. Again, I poured way too much as always, but I don't recommend mixing a lot of resin up for this because it takes so much time, and it really is time consuming trying to get into all them little gaps without overfilling, especially if you're using various colours at the same time and not allowing each stage to cure. And I just didn't have 3 or 4 days to do this. So I'm using my go-to white, which is the Just For You online, which is now Apex resin. and my go-to black, which is just a cheapie off Temu, but honestly it's absolutely amazing. I much prefer pigment pastes to micas, or any other pigments for that matter. And a little tip, if you've got some mica powders that you want to turn into pigment pastes, you've always got either A or B left when you come to the bottom of your resin bottle. So I use just the one part, mix up with my mica, and then turn it into a paste. This works particularly well with the neon colours, purely because they are so gritty, and if you turn them into a paste, it prevents that grittiness. Anyway, I digress. After mixing up all my colours, I'm then just taking each colour and popping it where I want it to be. Now I have sped this bit up for you because, as you can imagine, it took quite some time, and by the time I got to the end of the project, the resin was really quite thick. I don't do well with pipettes because it tends to go everywhere and it really annoys me trying to suck it up. So I did use my stick just to pop some resin onto the end, and then bit by bit drop it into the gaps where I wanted it to be. And I continued to do this until I was happy with all the bits that I needed to fill in. I did have a few tiny bits where it seeped over the edge into the other colour, but because this is going to be the back, it's not going to affect the front as much. So I did have a little bit of resin left, so I'm popping it into this vase mould that I have. So this is effectively just going to be a dirty pour vase. And then I was a bit unsure about popping these into my curing machine because of the acrylic plastic, so I left them to sit for about an hour. And I just want to show you how I cover my resin. These are just cake covers from Amazon, again linked in the description, and they're really handy for lack of dust and bits getting in your resin. I did end up putting them in my G3 to finish off curing, but just made sure that I had it on a lower temperature. And this didn't affect the acrylic in any way. So I left these gaps around the rim of the cup purely because I didn't want any overspill. So I'm just using some 3D UV resin just to go all around in the little gaps that are left. I then pop that into my G3 to fully cure. It's a bit strange having a curing machine that does both UV and epoxy. Now it was time to finish them off. So for this I'm using some Let's Resin chrome powders, but I'm not using it as we would normally use it. I'm mixing it into the resin. So I'm just popping 2 heaped bits on the end of my stick and giving this a good mix. Now this is the holographic silver, and the shimmer on this is absolutely gorgeous, and I think it'll go perfect with the colours that I've chosen. So the other colour I'm using is the black, and I'm giving this a real good mix. And then scraping my stick on the end of the cup just to get all the excess pigment off my stick, and then wiping it with a baby wipe just to remove all the excess off the stick, and then I give it another mix. Now I know if you've seen my channel and been with me for a while, you'll have seen me do this plenty of times, but the channel is growing quite quickly, so there are lots of newcomers daily on the channel, so I apologise now for repeating myself. Now I don't know whether you've ever had this, but when you look at something, you just can't see what it is. Now, I've had these coasters for quite some time, but I didn't want to make them because, see the ring around the top of the cup? I couldn't, as they were stencils, get my head around what that was. I couldn't understand why there was an extra bit on top of the cup, whether it needed to be cut off, but then the acrylic base was the same shape, and I just could not see it. Not until I popped them onto the acrylic bases and realised that this is in fact just a ring around the cup. So I've done 2 of the handles black, 2 of the handles silver, so I'm going in with the opposite colour as the background for these coasters. Now if I was to do these ones in these colours again, I would probably just mix them up a little bit more, or maybe add another colour into it. But this design and colour are right up my street, and I actually might start using these myself. And saying that, it's actually just dawned on me that I've never made anything just for me to use, as in with the intent or purpose for me to use it. Of course I've used items that I've made, but I didn't specifically make them for me. And although these didn't start off as specifically for me, it was with my household colours in mind. So because we've got some resin left, I'm popping this on top of the cured resin that was already in there and just creating more of a dirty pot with similar colours. Again, because this is going to match the coasters, I am actually going to have this in my house. But if you're new to resin and are unsure what a dirty pot is, it's literally just pouring colours into a cup or on top of each other and allowing them to mix rather than just pouring them separately into individual spaces. And that's just the technical term that's used for some reason. For anybody that's interested, in the new year my plan is to start a series of programmes that go right back to basics, pigments, what they're for, the terminology, different types of resin, what they're used for, a whole range, a massive series of starting from the basics and working the way up. So drop me a comment, let me know if you'd be interested in that. And these are now fully cured, so I'm just removing the front protective film, and this makes such a difference. It makes them all shiny and nice, and I think these are really, really classy, and I'm so pleased with the way that they've come out. The colours, I think, match my house perfectly, and that sparkle on that glitter is absolutely stunning because you can't go far wrong with a bit of sparkle. And I think this is my favourite one, although it's probably the most simplistic one. But as a set, I am really, really pleased with them. So because we're only still 12 minutes in, I thought, why not create another piece that I've got from Pour Away Fluid Arts? But this time, these are not coasters. This is wall art that I'm making for my daughter's bedroom wall. So when I bought these little butterflies that I'm about to use, I also bought a stainless steel back for another project, but I'd used that without a base. So I'm using this base for this project instead. With a lot of the 12-inch by 12-inch stencils, you get the option to buy the acrylic bases or the metal bases. But for this, I'm going to be covering this entire base with this holographic vinyl. So I'm just pulling off the backing sheet and then attempting to pop this on this base with massive difficulty. So this is the first attempt at popping it on, so I do in fact take it off and try to apply it for the second time. There are loads and loads of bubbles in this. So with, again, great difficulty, I managed to pull it off, and I'm using a dry cloth to try and make it as smooth as I can and just push it down onto the board bit by bit. This worked an absolute dream, and there wasn't half the amount of bubbles that was in it before. So once I was happy with the way the vinyl was on the sheet, I then trimmed all the edges just with a pair of scissors, just to make it all flat and nice. Then it was time to pop these little butterflies on. So these were a pack of, I think it's 36, but different size butterflies. And I wanted them to look and be placed on this board like they were sort of going round in a circle. So at the same time as filming this, I decided to create another one, but a different stencil that I had, where I use another one of these stencils to create a sun catcher in a deep box frame, which is in video number 27, because we all know I don't do one project at a time. So I'm popping the resin that I need on the base for that. Now the purpose of this is so that I can dip these butterflies in the resin and then place them all over this board. I have sped this bit up for you because it did take a while. These projects are really time consuming, but they're easy enough for beginners. So I started off placing the first one in the centre, and like I say, I wanted to go round in a spiral. Now I should have used some sort of guide, that probably would have made it a lot better, and I wasn't quite happy with the placement once they'd fully cured, but by that point it was too late and they were already on the board. So I'm just placing them one by one, dipping each one in the resin as I go, and then I left this to fully cure. Like I said, I have sped this bit up for you.
Where the magic grows, friendship blooms like a garden show. Stick together, yeah, we're better as one. Georgie's Gorgeous Gifts, where the fun's never done. With a little bit of love and a whole lot of glue, we're making magic just for you. Stick together, yeah, we're better as one. Georgie's Gorgeous Gifts, where the fun's never done. With a little
Once I'd arranged all my butterflies, I decided that I was going to fill them in with alternately with UV resin and pink glitter, and just fill them in with clear UV resin. This, I think, was a bit of a mistake. I wished I'd have left all the butterflies with the holographic vinyl behind them. Once all the butterflies were filled in, I then mixed up some pink mica powder and a little bit of resin, and then proceeded to pop all the pink in between the butterflies. And as long as you're really careful, you don't need anything around the edges. It will just sit on the edge like your top coat in a coaster, etc. For this I'm using epoxy, and I left that to cure. And this is what we are left with. I absolutely love it. I will pop a picture hook onto the back so that I can pop it up on a wall. And once it's had a few days to fully cure, I will then tidy up the edges. So there were the odd butterfly that was hanging off the edge. So all I've done here is literally snip off with a pair of snippers right up to the base. So if you've enjoyed this video, take a look at the playlist linked at the end. And let me know in the comments which one's your favourite. So all that's left is for me to leave you with some glamour pictures. I've been Tony from Georgie's Gorgeous Gifts. Stay safe, happy crafting, and bye for now.
Community's the heart of what we do.